Those family secrets you would never suspect. In the White House, he whispered to presidents, gave them advice. But in his own house, also a mansion, he had plenty of reasons to keep his family secrets hidden. But they all came spilling out the night his wife went running for her life.
When she says there was only one way she was going to get out of that marriage, if she was dead. It's a case making national headlines, but never before have you heard from the socialite herself, who barely lived to tell her own story of secrets and very high society. Here's Amy Robach tonight.
A frozen night, a dark road, headlights, a heart-pounding pedal-to-the-metal getaway. Mary Margaret Farren and her wide-eyed little girls, a 7-year-old and a 4-month-old baby.
The baby not buckled in her pajamas on the passenger seat, and my older daughter was sitting in the back seat.
A BMW weaving past the mansions on Wahacme Road, New Canaan, Connecticut. They call their wealthy town the next stop to heaven, but it is far from heaven this night.
I go the way I know, which is toward the town and to get toward people. And I don't pull into the first house because I'm afraid he's going to pull in right behind me.
Mary Margaret on the run from a brutal assault in her bedroom. The attacker, her husband, J. Michael Farren.
It was horrific. I was covered in blood.
What looked like a wonderful life vanishing behind them.
I looked in the rearview mirror and I saw it was black, it was dark. So I knew he wasn't behind. And then I thought, okay, where do I go?
Objects in that rearview mirror are stranger than they appear. A 12-year marriage to one of the most powerful men in Washington. A life of privilege and prestige. A $5 million mansion in New Canaan, one of the richest towns in America, with neighbors like Harry Connick Jr., singer Paul Simon, and scandal star Tony Goldwyn. All that is behind her now. Mary Margaret has spent the 5 years since the attack living in hiding, still fearing for her life, but tonight agreeing to come out of the shadows for this first interview, ready to talk about the family secret that almost killed her.
And tell me why you want to share your story.
I think when the severity of abuse gets to where I ended up with, most women in that situation never get to speak out because they're dead. But I felt it was just critical to speak out and to caution women in terms of getting involved with someone who shows these abusive tendencies.
The story of this nearly fatal marriage begins more than a dozen years earlier with Cherry Blossoms, a springtime romance in the nation's capital.
We started dating pretty quickly, and it was amazing. We had incredible conversations, and we went running together, and we would be out gardening at his house. I was drawn to him, and I thought he was intriguing. I was captivated after some time.
The captivating Mr. Farren is a Washington power player, an attorney with an impressive resume.
This guy is a serious lawyer, general counsel of Xerox, worked in the Bush administration, had held serious positions in government. This was a very senior, prominent attorney.
A search of ABC archives finds Farren holding a news conference in the 90s.
We had hoped it would see our overall trade imbalance go down below 100 billion.
Testifying before Congress.
Mr. Chairman, I've prepared a written statement which I've submitted to the committee.
Appearing on the weekly ABC News program Business World when he was an undersecretary at the Commerce Department.
The last thing we want to do is to drive U.S. production of any product offshore.
Now with Mary Margaret by his side, they're a couple to be envied. An all-access pass to all the power and privilege the Capitol has to offer. Here they are, posing with First Lady Hillary Clinton after she had them over for tea at the White House. And there's President Bill Clinton welcoming the Farrens to movie night at the White House Theater in 1999. A private screening of the horror movie Lake Placid, featuring a giant man-eating crocodile.
Go under!
All the while, Mary Margaret says, just beneath the surface of her husband's public persona lurked a scary dark side.
Out of the blue, he would just go into this rage, that jealousy, saying I had spoken too long to someone at a cocktail party. And I kept thinking, Well, he's just insecure because of our difference in our age. He's 13 years older than I am.
And things do get better, or so it seems.
Things all of a sudden went really smoothly. But in hindsight, what I realized is that I had completely altered my behavior. I didn't go out with girlfriends. I made sure that I was reachable at all times. I never stood too close to anyone at a cocktail party. I made sure I was attentive to him. And so you become so well-behaved in his eyes, and things are really calm.
And what was your wedding day like?
It was horrible. He got very angry at me. He got very angry that I hadn't remembered to bring his mother's plane ticket. And I'm sitting on that altar thinking, what am I doing?
Who am I marrying?
Yeah. And I'm smiling and trying to make everything happy and turn it into a happy day. And I'm seriously sitting there thinking, run. Just run.
Instead, she stays. They have 2 daughters and eventually trade Washington for the big house in Connecticut, the new first family of New Canaan.
He wanted to move back to Connecticut, and I thought, he's going to be happier. It's going to be a calmer.
The pressure is going to be off him.
Yeah, and then he'll be nice. He'll be doing what he wants. You won't have this high-pressure job. I was so wrong.
It got worse.
So much worse. So much worse. It was like a year of terror.
The man who once worked in the White House, a tyrant in his own house, barking orders, compulsively obsessing over every detail of his wife and daughter's life.
Don't touch this. Wash your hands. Take your shoes off. Controlling, like, don't eat that way. Telling our daughter, like, don't eat your food that way. And it was exhausting. I mean, there were so many rules.
Rules and constant fear.
I just would say to him, I think you're going to hit me eventually. And he would say, oh, Mary Margaret, I would never, ever, ever hurt you.
After years of agonizing, Mary Margaret makes a life-changing decision. She decides to pull the plug on her dying marriage. But with a husband like hers, she knows she's also pulling the pin on a grenade. Making sure she and the girls are out of the house, she has Farren served with divorce papers.
Were you nervous about doing that?
I was terrified. I was so scared. And I made sure our older daughter was at school, and I took the baby and went to another mom's house, and while he got served.
Did he know it was coming? Did he have any idea?
He did not know.
And what was his reaction?
He called me and he said, are you going to come home so we can discuss this? And I was crying on the phone, and I said, I'm scared to come home. And I said, is it safe for me to come home? And he said, yes.
When we come back, Mary Margaret and the girls come home.
And then you go into the master bedroom? And what happens?
Stay with us.